Good morning. Thank you for joining us at Toy Fair University. Up now we have Precision Meets Planning, how programmatic shapes the modern media mix. Our moderator for today is Gabriella Scothon from Beacon Media.
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Toy University. Happy Sunday after Valentine's Day. We're all very excited to be here today and talk to you about programmatic. So just a little bit of how today will go. We're going to start with talking about what programmatic is, how it's continuously evolving, and then how at Toy Fair and with clients and just programmatic in general, how beneficial it can be in today's modern media mix. But before I jump into that, just a couple words. We're all in toy marketing. It's a ever-changing, ever-growing space as new generations are coming about. Kids have different interests and likes, and they're growing into gaming and streaming and everything in between. So it's more important than ever that we have a safe space for them and are truly creating that. So that's how we come into play with showing that programmatic truly is that foundational piece in the media mix. So to start, I'll start by introducing our lovely and intelligent panelists that we have with us today. Thank you again for joining us. First, I'm thrilled to introduce Noor Naseer, Vice President of Media Innovations and Technology at Basis. Noor is a driving force behind the future of programmatic, automation, and media innovation. She also hosts the podcast Ad Tech Unfiltered. You can all take a listen, where she brings sharp industry insight to the forefront. We're so fortunate to have her perspective with us today.
Thank you.
Next, we are honored to welcome Matt Wasserlauf, CEO and founder of Blockboard. Matt is a pioneer in the industry, bringing blockchain technology into video distribution, which has revolutionized the video advertising industry. We are so excited to have his innovative voice on the panel with us today.
Thank you.
Next, we are joined by Sarah Watson, Director of Business Development at The Trade Desk. Sarah brings deep expertise in data-driven media strategy, platform innovation, and helps brands scale with precision and impact. We are thrilled to have her expertise with us today.
Thank you.
Joining us as well is Morgan Mooney, Senior Director of Digital Media at Beacon Media Group. With over a decade of experience in digital media, Morgan has led high-impact strategies across industries. Her hands-on executional expertise brings a valuable real-world perspective to this conversation, and we're lucky to have her.
Thanks, Gabby.
And finally, I know I was introduced at the beginning, but my name is Gabriella Scothon. I will be moderating today. I'm a digital media planner and buyer at Beacon Media Group, focused on digitally driven strategies across social, influencer, gaming, podcasting, and other emerging platforms. And I'm really excited to be leading this discussion today. So with that, let's jump into the questions. So Noor, I'll start with you as we're kicking off this panel. What is programmatic for the people that might not be as familiar with it?
Yeah. I feel like this is a relatively intimate group, so I'm just going to do a quick poll. Who here is already familiar with what programmatic is? Or if it's a little bit foggy, that's okay. Okay. It's not too many hands. I'm getting some half raises, which is maybe an indication that I should clarify this. So great question. So I think programmatic can be described a couple different ways, but in the context of media buying and advertising, programmatic is essentially, how do I buy as efficiently as I can and reach a very specific audience? I want to target them and not enable a lot of waste. So I want my dollar to go the furthest so I can reach that prospective toy buyer, that person who's intending to buy for somebody else, or whatever the case may be. Let's find those individuals as effectively as we possibly can, and let's automate it. How do we make it easier? How do we make sure we're not reaching out to a lot of different players that can help us do that execution or execute that advertising buy? If we can simplify the process by using technology, then programmatic's going to enable that.
That's amazing, and I think it's a very concise way to allow people to think of it in such a word that a lot of people aren't as familiar with. So that's a wonderful answer. Does anyone have anything else they'd like to add or
I think just from my end, a lot of clients come to us about how they can efficiently scale when they have maybe smaller budgets or they, the bottom line and ROI is a priority. And programmatic gives us that ability to kind of reach audiences that scale at an efficient price. I think someone told me this way back in the day to kind of think of programmatic almost as the stock market for media, right? You have a demand side platforms and supply side platforms where the supply side platforms are putting their inventory into it. And then the demand side is picking it up, and it's real-time bidding. So it's based on, how many people are going after that inventory at the same time. And that's kind of the best analogy that I heard growing up about programmatic is kind of think of it as the stock market for a media marketplace.
I love that. I think we can all take that little tidbit with us today. Thank you, Morgan. And Morgan, I actually will throw this question back to you. With us here today for programmatic shaping the modern day media mix, what do you think the role of programmatic is in the modern day media mix?
So I think really what programmatic in the media mix is now is kind of shifting from a channel focused strategy to an audience based strategy where it's not as important where you're advertising and more important on who you're advertising to. So it's really finding your consumer wherever they're engaging, whether that be online video, streaming, display, audio, and then what you're able to do is then contextualize your whole media mix in one easy place that allows you to efficiently optimize towards the media that is actually performing. So it's becoming a performance-led initiative versus just kind of looking at a media mix and making strategic decisions. This way you're making real-time strategic decisions. And I think that's where a lot of people are going. A lot of our clients are really focused on efficiency, and efficiency is the bottom line with programmatic.
Definitely. Matt, do you have anything?
I'm excited about one word that you just said, Morgan, and that's performance. So over the last 15, 20 years, programmatic has done a staggering job getting scale. And we've called that performance, reaching these huge, massive audiences. But the problem is the real performance is hard outcomes, sales, leads, visits into the store. That's what we lost. So while we were getting these huge swaths of audience, the hard outcomes was missing. And that's what I believe is the next focus we have to make, is a focus on hard outcomes as performance.
I think that's great, Matt. And I think as we're entering this digital age, if we don't see those hard outcomes, clients are not going to be as receptive because that's what they want. They want the research. They want everything behind it. So I think having those outcomes will really benefit, and as it continues to grow, it will be really impactful. As we're all here at Toy Fair today, a big question that comes up is the role of programmatic different for kids versus adults? And Morgan, I can pass it to you first, but anyone else, please feel free to chime in.
Sure, and the thing with targeting kids, especially under 13, is obviously the data protection laws. So when we're talking about audience first in a programmatic landscape, you can't really do that when you're trying to target minors. So the way that you can leverage programmatic in the kid space is really by leaning into contextual targeting instead of behavioral targeting or audience targeting. And what Matt was saying before about hard outcomes isn't going to be the same performance you're looking for on the kid side, but what you're looking for here is efficiency and scale. It also helps you navigate some hard minimums that some direct partnerships will require you to spend in order to place media with them, but leveraging contextual programmatic, maybe in kids and family categories, you're able to still reach that at scale in a beneficial way and kind of a little easier on your budgets.
Definitely. I think that's something important as getting into kids and adults. You need to be contextual with them, and without reaching the kids wherever they can be, even if you can't directly be targeting them, is still very important.
Yeah, and I think it's important too on the kids side is like when you have these direct partnerships with some of the vendors where you're going to direct, you're allowed to use those for private marketplace deals and curated marketplaces that you can still make sure that you're in those avenues without having to be on the open web, but you're still able to do it in real-time optimization when you're looking at the cost, the view-through rates. You can still optimize towards media just in a different way and not looking at sales, but looking at overall visibility.
Definitely. Sarah, did you have anything you wanted to add?
I think to Morgan's point, she makes a really good point of there's a lot of limitations when you're working directly with a publisher. You have to hit a minimum. You have to buy in a traditional I/O capability. But when programmatic comes into the space, you have more flexibility. You can work with all of those premium publishers, and you can work with real-time bidding to make sure that you're getting that impression for the most efficient CPM. So that's really another big value of when we're targeting kids, for example, instead of using behavioral targeting, using contextual, still making sure that we're landing on really, really relevant publisher inventory without having to go direct to these publishers and buying a traditional I/O capability.
Definitely. And I think, Noor, did you want to add as well?
Yeah, I was going to say for anyone for whom like private marketplace deals or open web, if that sounds a little bit foreign to you, we were just connecting a little bit earlier about how nostalgic it is for myself as like an older millennial to be here and see a lot of brands that I'm familiar with. And I'm thinking back to how I used to connect with advertising. And it was after school cartoons or Saturday morning cartoons, or if there were Sunday morning cartoons, I guess that time too. And that I was a very stringent advocate. Even though maybe I wasn't the final buyer, I was ringing the alarm that I needed these products from these particular brands. And we just as effectively are now able to, maybe we're not using as much traditional television, which can definitely be cost prohibitive and have its limitations. Now we have all these other digital spaces where we can get in front of kids. And yes, it's more contextual versus knowing, oh, I know for a fact that this is a person of a certain age, but we know with substantial confidence that we are reaching those people and that they are becoming, those people being children, being advocates for these toy brands.
No, and I love that. And I think we all have kids in our lives that are probably the most talkative about all the advertisements and want the best new toy and everything in between. So I think one of the benefits of programmatic is that speed and availability of the inventory, but also in this new age, reaching those kids and having them be that advocate, maybe not in a traditional sense of circling the magazines like we used to do or running up to your parents, but I think that's definitely something. But I know we talked about a lot of benefits already about programmatic, but do any of you want to add any other benefit that you feel like has not been talked about yet today?
I mean, I don't want to. I want to be careful not promoting my company, Blackboard, but I'm going to say this: AI is now here. And we need substantial confidence, as Noor just said, that we're reaching the right people. And that's what we've introduced blockchain to do in combination with AI, is make sure that we're hitting the customers at lightning speed, but that we're hitting with 100% security and assurance that we're hitting the right person. So that's something that we all have to start thinking about now as AI takes hold.
Definitely, and I think that is a great point and leads us kind of further into our conversation of how programmatic's evolving and everything like that. But before we jump into that, Matt, I'll go back to you. What mediums do you see the most success with programmatic, and do you have a case study or anything you'd like to share that kind of models that success?
So I've been working with my friends at Beacon Media for 7 years, and I'm thrilled about it. When I go back to the first days when I opened the doors at Blackboard, and they were selling a teddy bear. I believe it was called Care Bears, and you only had $2,000. So I worked with your colleague Samantha Celebrezzi. Yes. I know she's not with you anymore, and she said, "Matt, I don't have a lot of money, but we only have 5 or 6 stores where we're selling these bears, these teddy bears." I said, "We can do it. $2,000." I think we set it up for a week or 2 weeks, and she called me on the second day. To say, I have good news and I have bad news. I said, start with the bad news. She said, take it down, take the campaign down immediately. I said, we only spent $100. I said, what pray tell is the good news? She said, you sold all the teddy bears in one day. So we were using the power of programmatic and the automation of programmatic to reach these 5, 6 stores, but we were using the security of blockchain to make sure they ran to those stores in that radius. So that's how we use the combination of these two incredible technologies to make sure we're hitting the exact right people and spending every single dollar of your limited budgets.
No, I think that's amazing, and we've loved working with you as well. And I know Samantha will speak about that campaign doing so well, and it's exciting to see that it's still relevant today, and is very exciting. But does anyone else want to share any case studies or anything?
Yeah, I think the biggest change in the past couple of years has been connected TV. I think especially during the pandemic, we were all watching a lot of TV. I know I didn't do anything else besides try to bake macaroons, which I quickly gave up on after the first try. But we all started watching so much television and so much content. So quickly, connected TV really became the next digital advertising space that really exploded. And we're really seeing that typically this is more of an awareness journey. Someone sees something on TV. Yes, now it's a little bit more able to like click on that ad or scan a QR code, but we see that it's a top of the funnel journey. What we're seeing now, especially in digital advertising, that it's really, really important to have that channel as part of that larger media mix when you are still buying a Care Bear, when you are still making a purchase, because you will subconsciously recognize that I was served an ad on connected TV, then maybe again with display later on, and that actually ultimately led me to making that purchase or going to the website and educating myself on the product. So that really has been a channel in the past couple of years that I feel has exploded. We've seen a lot of also cord cutters. Like I know myself, I moved into Manhattan 10 years ago. I have not had linear since then. I've only had connected TV. So it's more important now than ever to reach that audience on that device. And it's the biggest screen in the household. So your ad is in a really brand safe environment on a huge screen, and you're really getting an engaged audience. Also to Matt's point, like he touched on the really power of really good data. So we're also seeing retail data explode. We've been partnering with Walmart historically for years, and the value of retail data is that it's deterministic actual purchase-based data. So someone who bought a toy, maybe a lapsed consumer, maybe a purchase of a competitor brand, you're now able to use this data of an actual person purchasing that product to really reach your target audience. So being able to be more flexible with the data that's available, that's also something that we've seen constantly change in the programmatic space that I'm personally very excited to see where it's going to continue to grow in the next couple of years.
Definitely. No, I couldn't agree more. Morgan, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, I think Sarah hit the nail on the head with the full funnel strategy with programmatic, where you're able to get that premium top of the funnel streaming inventory all the way down to display and click or online video, where your goals are to click to sales, especially if you're in the D2C space. The ability to retarget users who have watched your ad on streaming, and then while they're in the mindset of purchase, you're able to serve them another ad to drive them directly to the POS, I think is what the full journey of programmatic will take your consumer from point A all the way to sale, and that's uniquely done in the programmatic space because you're able to track them across all mediums.
Definitely.
I hop
Noor?
in and mention one other thing on the back of something Matt was saying earlier, which had to do with the data and also the fact that sometimes you may not have that many dollars that you want to execute against, but you want to leverage them very effectively. Data can mean a lot of different things. Sometimes that access to data is coming from a massive retailer, but there are going to be some restraints around when you can access those dollars because there's going to be a spend volume that you need to hit or a threshold you need to hit. In other instances, there's other types of accessible data, or there's your data. You may also have data that can be uploaded and taken advantage of. We can extrapolate from that data and see what types of audiences do we want to build. Are there lookalike audiences? And there are many different ways to like play and slice and dice the data so that can all help you most effectively take advantage of your dollars.
No, definitely. And I think with that too, with a smaller budget, having that data and being able to make that concrete decision on which way to go and how it can kind of direct your buys with programmatic in the future is going to be really helpful. So I know that Matt kind of touched on this a couple minutes ago, but as we're talking about data and driving that kind of future purchase intent and everything in between, how do you all feel about AI coming into the programmatic space, and how are you all planning to kind of work with it and make sure that's still a safe place for kids to be?
Thank you for that awesome question. So I'll be honest, when I opened the doors at Blockboard 7 years ago, I did not know AI was coming. But what I was determined to fix was the $100 billion ad fraud problem. And I used blockchain to do that. So 5 years forward, AI comes. And I turned to my co-founder, Tarun Yadav, and I said, we've got to be able to do this. He said, Matt, we could pull this off because we have the blockchain as our security. So now when you use the power of AI to find the customer with lightning speed, we know with 100% assurance that it hit the right person through the use of smart contracts on the blockchain. It's unbelievable, and the sales for all of our clients are through the roof. We are pulling it off. 2 weeks ago, we just introduced BlockVantage, which is our AI platform, which I'm proud to say Beacon Media is a pilot partner. So we are doing it as we speak. We just tested with Jersey Mike's. They doubled their ad spend, by the way, $2,000 to open a new Jersey Mike's in Cambridge, Massachusetts. We flooded CTV in Cambridge. They doubled their money. They doubled their ad spend on BlockVantage. So we're using the power of these two amazing technologies to find customers with lightning speed and to provide the assurance of 100% that you're reaching the right people, human beings.
Definitely, and I think that's wonderful to know. I think all of us now might be craving a Jersey Mike's sandwich after this, so it might be a great lunch. But thank you for that. And Noor, do you have anything you'd like to add about
Yeah,
AI?
I mean, not dissimilar from what Matt was just saying. I would say first, AI is something that we've been talking about in the programmatic advertising space for quite some time, but I'd say it's a more rudimentary form of AI. So people talk about machine learning optimization. So how do we make sure that, and this point was made earlier by Morgan, we want our dollars to be operating in our favor and educating themselves through technology across the course of the buy so that every dollar is being spent more efficiently than the dollar that we spent before it. When an impression or an ad is served, what did we learn from that? How can we take advantage of what we learned from that so that the next ad can be even more effective? So there's going to be more of that, but I think the way that AI is showing up now, and this is an experience we're having at Basis too, is it is helping us optimize the dollars, which is something that Matt already talked about, but also what about the planning? What about some of the other aspects of media buying that we're not really getting into the weeds about for the purposes of this conversation? Those things need AI too. I mean, there's so much time we could spend today talking about all the applications of artificial intelligence, and making sure that we can plan as effectively as possible is a part of that too. So there's an automation aspect that's also of incredible value, and that's an area that Basis is focused on.
No, and I love that, and I think it's really important with AI coming in to embrace it, but also use it in a safe way, especially surrounding kids. So I think being able to use it to get that quick and efficient speed can be very helpful. But Sarah, did you want to add as well?
Yeah, I definitely agree with Noor. I think there's so many ways to use AI. It's brand safety, it's automation, it's efficiency. And I'd say at the Trade Desk, we're really focusing on AI as your co-pilot. You know, you're still the human. You still have really the best way on how to execute a campaign, reach your target audience. You know what's best. But AI is here, like Noor said, to make it easier. You're spending less time building a campaign, less time sifting through all of the data capabilities that we have, whether that's first-party data, third-party data, retail data, where like AI really is here to help make your job easier. So I definitely would say in the programmatic space, it's been quick to be utilized for all of those different execution ways that Noor mentioned. And very similar to her point, it's going to continue to evolve. So I think we're going to see this just really continue to blast off in the next couple of years as well.
Definitely, I couldn't agree more. With that, and I'm glad that you talked about the evolution, I put this to all of you. Where do we see the evolution of programmatic and how it will morph in this modern age of media and changing in the future? And what is your company doing today to ensure that you're staying within that modern day media mix?
I'm going to jump on that. So I'm excited that we're now harnessing AI with such security that it's going to root out all of the ad fraud and the bots. So the problem was stated very clearly last week at the IAB leadership meeting. Shannon Reed is the chief media officer of General Motors, and she led the conference by telling all of us that 50% of the internet is bots, and it's going to 75% with AI. And she called out to the industry leadership to bring her technology that drives accountability and outcomes. I ran to the stage and we are now in an RFI process with General Motors. That is the call out. And I believe that the solution now is there to make the internet advertising much more efficient with the power of artificial intelligence. I am a big-time optimist, and I'm super excited about what's coming.
Wonderful, thank you. And I think, Morgan, to throw that to you as you're planning, like, how do you think programmatic is coming in more for your clients and is definitely becoming a bigger part of that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we saw it this year alone. I know many of you out here watching are in the toy manufacturing space. You had some tariffs in your budget that you didn't have to take part of this year, and everyone's coming to us with how can we make our budgets work? And programmatic is definitely a stepping stone for us for being able to take be on streaming networks. You want to be on Hulu. If you go directly to Hulu, you have to have a commitment with Disney, right? In programmatic, I'm able to get them in those spaces that they once were with the working budget that was much smaller. And I think what I'm hearing from clients across the board is really that ROI and return on their investment. So basically, programmatic allows us to kind of track from an awareness upper funnel goal down all the way to purchase and sale. And that's kind of the way we're implementing it across the board. It's agnostic to where you want to advertise. It's podcast, it's display, it's video, it's TV. And that programmatic allows you to be a one-stop shop for the full media mix, which I think as a planner makes my job a little bit easier. I don't need to go and RFP 20, 30 vendors. I can go to these great programmatic DSPs to work with them, gain the inventory that we need at an efficient rate, and keep my clients really happy.
Yeah, well, I want to harp on something Morgan said, if you don't mind. She said this in the beginning where it's not a channel anymore. It's a buying platform. So instead of thinking as, I have my video budget, my display budget, my audio budget, and then I have my programmatic budget. It should be, all of those budgets should be contained on that one platform. So one, you can save your money. You can be a little bit smarter with your dollars, especially when it's crunch time and every single dollar matters. You can be more efficient. And something Morgan said before is that it should be an audience-first strategy. If we're prioritizing getting your audience to buy the bear on the website, to buy the toy, or to reach parents, we should reach that audience most effectively wherever they are across that digital media space. And that's really how you should be thinking of programmatic, the buying platform, not the channel anymore. So I would say that's really how programmatic has changed. And really, that's where AI has really gotten more involved, is to make Morgan's life easier, is to say this is where your target audience is. It's not just by going to those individual publishers and giving them an upfront commitment and saying, I hope we reach my target audience. It's, I want my audience first approach. I'll reach them wherever they are across the digital environment.
Also, I just wanted to say one more thing, too, based off that. In addition to leveraging programmatic for those efficiencies, there is still something to be said about leaning into premium inventory, especially as Matt was saying, we're going to be 75% of the internet is bots, or even just different websites. A lot of my clients care about the premium nature of the inventory. They don't want to be on a random sketchy website. No one does. Obviously, we have the brand safety levers we can put in on top of that, but I think what's really important to them is that they're in a high value environment, and working with leveraging agencies or partners that have direct relationships with a lot of these vendors is very beneficial in programmatic, because you're able to have these private marketplace deals, which I know that might sound foreign to you guys, but this is basically our agency works with a Peacock, an NBC, a Hulu, a Disney to kind of cultivate, based on our buying power and our relationships, these best-in-class CPMs that we can leverage programmatically. And then I work with Matt. He puts in my deal ID, work with Noor and Sarah. They put in our deal ID, and then we're able to get best-in-class CPMs because of our relationship. So I think while programmatic is great for an automation and being able to optimize, having relationships with the inventory sources is still really important to kind of cultivate that full media mix.
And I'm just going to jump in here to say one of the things I'm most proud of working with Beacon Media is they want those PMPs, those private marketplaces with Hulu and Disney and all these great publishers, and we're removing roughly 30% fraud from all of those publishers. They can't control it. So that's what we do for Beacon Media, is we remove all the MFAs, made for advertising sites, spoofs, and all of that bad stuff so that they can reach all the real intended audiences. So I'm proud to be a partner of Beacon Media.
I know we've been on this question for a while, but I just
please
wanted to make
go ahead.
a quick additional point on top of all the great mentions that have already been made. I think Programmatic has had a rebranding in so many ways over the years, where people once upon a time heard programmatic and they'd say, oh, you mean crap inventory? You mean stuff that isn't as sexy as the type of inventory I would be able to get direct if I went straight to NBC or to New York Times or wherever it is that you want to run ads? Maybe not. I'm not interested in that. Now, if you look at a lot of statistics from verifiable partners, they'll say over 90% of advertising is purchased programmatically. Now, programmatic can mean a couple different things, but it is something that is leading the way that we execute advertising for a number of reasons that have already been mentioned on the panel. So the power is something that cannot be denied, and compared to, let's say, 10 plus years ago, you really couldn't secure a lot of the amazing inventory that Morgan was talking about before. And now we can, and there's so much inventory, so much high quality inventory, that we really have to chase after that. And simultaneously, to Matt's point, do away with the types of like low quality ad fraud and or just, again, low quality inventory that we want to stay away from, so that we're focused on appropriate spaces for the types of people who want to execute advertising campaigns in this room. It's a very sensitive area, right? Like if you're reaching children, parents, you want to be in brand safe spaces, and making sure that you're using the right types of technology to do away with the bad players is absolutely essential.
Most definitely. And I think as we're sitting in this room today and there's companies from all over, I think you all have touched so wonderfully on the fact that programmatic does bring so much to the table, and it allows to stretch those smaller budgets. It's allowed to get in that higher premium space where maybe you wouldn't be able to get your foot in the door otherwise. And I think in today's world where there's so many different places that you can be, I think programmatic is a great overarching way to hit those main big players that kids and families are still huge a part of. Hulu, Disney, they're still a major part of today's society, even as we move to some Meta and TikTok and other platforms like that. So I think it really shows how a true media mix can really change any outcomes for any company, and I think it's really important today. So before we move to Q&A, which if anyone has any questions, we'll just be right over there on those couches. But I just wanted to, my final question to all of you, and we can just go down the line, what would you like the audience to take away from today's panel?
If you are thinking about advertising in any capacity, if this was an opportunity to get educated, there's so much to learn, and this is a good opportunity to reach out to anyone on the panel to learn more. There's so many resources, but also just to reiterate something that we mentioned earlier on, programmatic is this incredible opportunity, and I think sometimes people want to focus on, what do we already do? I don't know if I need to get into this. Is this something that we really need to prioritize? And I would say, like, every day that you don't take advantage of the opportunities that are available in the programmatic advertising space, you're doing yourself a disservice. You're doing your business a disservice. This is an amazing, like, this toy fair. I've never been here before. This has been such an exciting opportunity to come and, you know, relive childhood memories, think about memories for the future. But there are so many other spaces that we can have high impact with the people who are responsible for buying, the people who have relationships with major retailers, with the consumers, with the parents, with the, you know, aunts and uncles, whoever it is that's responsible for doing toy buying or game buying. And programmatic can be this incredible opportunity for us to access that. So that would be my overarching point of encouragement.
I love that, Matt.
Yeah, at the same conference I heard from General Motors, the gentleman from OpenAI spoke, and he said, there is no better day to be born than today. And we all couldn't believe our ears. And I wrote that down. I will never forget it, because he's seeing what the future looks like, and he knows that this is the greatest time to be on Earth. And so I will say that to you. This is a start of a new day, a new time. And I'm calling it Programmatic 2.0. Programmatic 2.0 starts now. And with AI, we're going to make this really work. And that's why I'm excited to work with all of you.
Wonderful. I love that. Sarah?
Yeah, I think a lot of you are new to the programmatic space, and that's great. I think don't be afraid. It is intimidating, and also programmatic is continuing to evolve. So like Noor said, it is never too late to get started now. Ask us questions, ask your coworker questions. There's so many resources, and programmatic is no longer the remnant inventory. As we were talking before, you have that capability to reach those premium publishers, still really negotiate those deals. You're still really important part. While AI is getting stronger, you are the driver. You are the reason these campaigns get activated. AI is your co-pilot. It's here to help. And programmatic, think of it as not a channel, but the buying platform to do what you're doing already, but do it smarter and more efficiently.
I think for me, the biggest thing I hear from my clients is trying to make sense of such a fragmented digital marketplace and how that they can leverage that. And what I just want to say is let the data decide. And I think programmatic allows a great opportunity for you to test and learn. Testing and learn is great. It's okay for things not to work. But what's great about programmatic is in real time, you can optimize and shift where you're spending your dollars based on what the data is telling you. Whether you're trying to get efficient reach and scale, we're looking at CPMs and pricing and overall view-through rates, or whether it's really trying to get a return on your ad spend and optimize towards sales. Programmatic allows us to do all touch points of KPIs and lets the data tell us that. So I think that's the one thing I'd want you guys to take away is programmatic equals data. It's allowing us to put data first instead of just being strategic. It really proves it out.
I love that. Thank you, Morgan. I want to thank all of our panelists for joining us today and joining me and our audience for being with us at this panel. As I mentioned, we will be right over there to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you so much and enjoy
Thanks,
Toy
everybody.
Fair.